Hey, my name is ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and screen reading on ShawNshawNacting.com. Today we're going to review I Care a Lot. So this is a film by Jay Blakeson, and he's also the writer, so it's a nice combination director-writer. It makes for a lot of smooth transitions from straight to the writing, straight to the directing versus hiring multiple writers and working over the plot, which is fine too, but if you get that singular thing, you can have a really clear vision, I think. The time is 1 hour and 58 minutes, a little longer than 1.5 hours I like, but for an intriguing plot where there's twists and turns, I think you really need a little bit of extra time to develop the plot. We have Rosamund. Pike plays Marla Grayson, this guardian who takes in elders under her care via the state. Eiza Gonzalez plays Fran, her co-worker slash girlfriend at work. Peter Drinklage plays Roman Lunyov, a Russian mafia boss. Dianne Wiest plays Jennifer Peterson. So the story starts off this man protesting his mother, getting taken away by this guardianship, Marla Grayson. She takes him under the guardianship. He tries to get into the elder care where she's being held and can't get in, and it's kind of like boop boop, and then it's obviously a racket, and she's just in the meantime just selling off all her assets, right? So just this horrible scam basically. And then her next hit is one of her victims or one of her marks dies early, and she's like, damn, now we have to cash it out. We don't get to cash all the money out, right? They have to sell off the assets back to the inheritors. And so she gets this new woman, it's Jennifer Peterson, and they take in Jennifer, they start selling her house, her goods, everything. But then they start looking into her paperwork and they're like, is she really Jennifer Peterson? That doesn't make any sense. You know, it turns out all her documents are all fake. She's like, ooh, who do we have here? And this person shows up to threaten them, you know, with typical lawyer. She's like, ah, whatever, I don't need your help. He's like, you're gonna regret this. You're gonna be sitting in a chair and regretting this. And they're like, ah, whatever. I've been threatened by men before, I can handle this. She's just such a fucking cold ass bitch, right? And so then it just ratchets up who's gonna win in the scenario between this Russian mafia figure in the background taking on this really corrupt guardian who's using the legal system against all her patients. So, you know, from a story standpoint, I just thought it was just perfection on writing. Really great script, great amount of twists and turns, and just the right kind of dialogue and the right kind of character build, and just overall fantastic. I was so glad that my brother had kind of picked this out earlier, put it on his Netflix kind of favorites to see later, and then we said, oh, let's watch this. The title sounded completely stupid, right? I think it's the worst title ever. I Care a Lot. It's like... like somehow I was like super lazy on the title, right? That probably killed the whole marketing of the film, was I Care a Lot. It just sounds dumb as hell. But outside of that title error in the marketing, which is kind of your keyest way to sell the film, right? It doesn't sound anything interesting. You know, beyond that little flaw in the marketing, I would say it's just great. If you don't know anything about the film, you know, turn it off, watch it now. I would say it's killer. Don't watch my review at all. But if not, just keep watching. It's such a perfect way to see a film. I used to see film like this in Spain. We could show up to minimum, read a little bit minimum from the poster and a couple of lines on a little quick synopsis, but we didn't really see a trailer. So if you don't see the trailer, the images don't stick in your mind as much. So you're like, oh, that sounds like interesting. Let's go see it. And then as it unrolls, it's almost like you don't know anything about the film, right? But if you see a trailer, nowadays they just shoot like basically a huge chunk of the story will be in the whole trailer. And you see the trailer after you see the movie and you're like, Jesus Christ, they gave away the whole story, right? There's very few films. Sometimes they sideline you. I think in one of the Mission Impossibles, they suggested that Tom Cruise's character was actually gone crazy and rogue, and then it was like such an interesting marketing twist because he actually never does go rogue in the story, so it completely throws you at the marketing. It presents enough to make it really interesting, and then the story goes in a different line, so it's really great, right? From the marketing aspect, you kind of want to mislead the audience, get enough to interest, but at the same time, don't give away the best parts of the movies, and nowadays most trailers do that, but you know, they're trying to get butts in seats, so they do it however they need to. It's great fun seeing Peter Drinklage. He's from the Game of Thrones, one of the key characters in that series. And in that series, he kind of plays his royalty, and he's always kind of behind the scenes character, bastard son, all this. But he's still royalty, right? So people respect him. And here he plays the mafia boss. And if you know anything about a mafia boss, I don't think you could be this, you know, small person, you know, intimidating or running a whole mafia. I mean, why would any of his goons be scared of him? So that doesn't make any sense. I mean, he could have all the power he wants, but why wouldn't they just kill him and take his money? So in that sense, it doesn't really make sense. It makes sense in Game of Thrones because he's royalty and people would look up to the royalty and he would have those strings to place per se, but in the Russian mafia, it would just be the next guy up would be like, screw it, I'm gonna take out my boss and take his empire. You have to be the most baddest ass motherfucker to really dominate that crew, because it's really based on fear, right? There's no sense anything else but fear, right? Even if you have all the money and power, if you don't have any fear of this person, you're not going to really work for them, right? Because it's the underworld. Why would you take the risk of going to jail if you don't fear them and there's great money, right? He obviously has the money, but the fear factor's not there. So I'm like, that kind of doesn't make sense. So I don't know if that's the right person to pick. He was fantastic acting, of course, but again, just that connection, I think that's a little off from the casting standpoint of it should just be a badass motherfucker that she takes on. But it also makes sense in the sense that he's small, so then the women don't feel intimidated by him at all in the sense. So that kind of makes sense in a way. I love the idea of this sinister female duel taking down these mark. There was a little bit of kind of the Hollywood line of pushing the envelope a little bit on, you know, just pushing the envelope as far as where society is now, and they're like, oh, we're gonna be the leading edge, and you know, just like, you know, there's a lesbian element here, which is fine, I don't have an issue with, but it's kind of like a little bit liberal elitism, so they're gonna kind of lose maybe some of the people in the middle of the country that don't want to see it, or you know, don't find it accepting. So that might have been why it never got a cinema release. I don't know, didn't really matter to me, but again, it's kind of like they play that up. The weird thing is they do have kind of a stereotypical lesbian film ending. So if you know anything about lesbian films, it's always like, traditionally like in the 60s, 50s, whatever, it would be like two women meet, they have this star-crossed affair in the secret, and then it comes out and then one of them commits suicide, right? So this doesn't end in suicide, but it has a very stereotypical ending in a way. So in a way, they're reinforcing film history stereotypes about lesbians, but whatever, you know? Maybe I'm just reading way too much into it. Great plot twist here, great story. Like, we stopped in the middle of the film and got out the chips and we were like, it's that type of film you're on your set, eating the edge, you're like, ooh, is she gonna come up top? Is the mafia boss gonna come on top? Oh, she's back again? Oh, the mafia back on top? You're like, you know, there's just certain parts where you're like, why don't she get tortured? And some parts where you're just, you know, it's really interesting how much power this woman has legally and how much she's able to kind of behind the scenes just strip people, you know, strip mine them basically for all their assets. Really great acting by the women. You have Dianne Wiest plays Jennifer Peterson, this Mark, who turns out to be related to the mafia. Rosamund Pike plays Marla Grayson. You have her lover, Eiza Gonzalez. So that's a really great triple play in between all the women. There's a strong sense of women. It's kind of women versus the Russian mafia in a way. So it's very interesting, that twist. I also like the idea that this guardianship, I don't think it's too far from the truth. I don't think, probably 99% of guardians are legit guardians and they don't take advantage of their people they take care of because the court probably checks them a lot. But I could see someone that's very, you know, if you're a sociopath and you're a guardian, you could totally take advantage of people like this. You could totally pretend to care and not really care and then slowly take away their assets, and just as long as you hit all those legal check marks, you could totally start strip mining someone. So in the way the film is really creepy, especially if you're elderly, you see this and you're 65, you're like, oh my God, is what's gonna happen? So I think that's a really great element. The Russian mafia is real in the sense that people know about girls being traded around the world for prostitution, so that's their business in the film. They don't show much of it, but you kind of get that feel, ooh man, these guys are some gruesomely. So it's really great to see these heads to head of two corrupt, you know, the traditional mafia kind of behind the scenes and this legal version of a scam, you know, hit each other butt heads. It's really a great combination. Great, a lot of conflict in the film, so that really creates, that's what you want in a film, is have every scene have a lot of conflict, so they really achieve that. Great storyline. The one thing I would say is I think it's probably on the timing when it came out. You know, it was on Netflix, and then maybe Netflix doesn't have all the relationships with the cinema that they need to really take it out, but it would have been a really great thing to see this in the cinema. I think it's definitely cinema worthy. Definitely would have been a great date night kind of thing. You go with your girlfriend, you're like, holy crap, these people are gonna be killed, right? It just seemed like that kind of film, like see a date night. I saw it with my brother, but really great film, I think. It's a shame it wasn't a cinema. Again, it's kind of a drama, so you don't necessarily need to be in the cinema. It's not like a lot of action sequences that are kind of like good, like a Star Wars in cinema, but still, I think it really deserved a cinema release, and it's kind of a shame, I think, that they probably didn't get a cinema release, just went straight to Netflix. But again, the technology is pretty equivalent nowadays with the HDTV. My brother had like a double sound bar, so it was like great sound. I think we saw it on, I think he has a 75-inch or 65-inch, I don't know, but some crazy size, right? And you're seeing really close. You got really good sound effects. You don't have the audience interrupting. So that's a really great experience. You're sitting in a nice IKEA chair versus those crappy, my local AMC has the worst chairs possible. I hope you guys like it. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. If you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you on the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.